Left 4 Dead is a cooperative horror game. Played better in a team than individually.
Well, I think anytime you play a game with a team, it's going to be better than playing it individually. I mean, some portion of that is obviously opinion, but I think whenever you share a great experience, it makes it more rich, if you will, to talk about that with someone else and to sort of have that collaboration.
Because I was asking you that because I imagine that the previous experience of Counter-Strike was important on developing this kind of game, this kind of gameplay.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, one of the big things that we're trying to do with Left 4 Dead is to replicate that perfect Counter-Strike game more consistently, right? In Counter-Strike, we don't have any AI working in terms of opponents. So it's really up to the two teams to create that nice balance and sort of those peaks and valleys, of drama and then still quiet before the peak, And in Left 4 Dead, what we're saying is, okay, one side of is all AI controlled, so we have some ability to sort of schedule the peaks and valleys and sort of take this team on the roller coaster ride. And one of the big examples, or one of the big goals, is to replicate that game that you had in Counter-Strike with your friends when you barely won at the last minute and something really cool happened for you to win it at the end, and after the game everybody was emailing each other or texting each other about like, wow, that was great, blah blah blah, and we're trying to get that more consistently with Left 4 Dead.
But playing with 4 people, let's say, there's a cooperative mode that will help all the team to go further in the game. How important is this collaboration? Can one player step aside and leave the team? Or?
So we're intentionally making the game almost impossible to beat by yourself. So whether you're playing single player with 3 bots or with all 4 human players, the 4 survivors are going to have the best chances working together. Even if the 3rd and 4th player on your team are pretty terrible, it's going to be handy to have the extra weaponry just following behind you and watching your back. And again, trying to replicate the greatest Counter-Strike experience you've ever had is sort of beating people into playing like a team. If you have one great guy and he just runs out there and he does everything and everybody else stands behind and watches, that's not very interesting, right? Everybody wants to get the ball on the team.
In this kind of games, weapons are one of the most important things. What are we getting on a game like this?
So all the weapons in Left 4 Dead will be of the real-world, modern-day variety. And for us, again, learning from Counter-Strike, it's the feel of those weapons and how they behave and perform. It's the response. That's the most important thing. And for us, we've seen in Counter-Strike and many other games that there's a certain number of maps that really get played and a certain number of weapons that really get used. So you saw it in Team Fortress, for example. We focused on, I believe it was 6 maps at the first launch, because we thought it was more important to have 6 great maps than to have 20 maps where 2 of them were great and 18 of them were just there so we could say we had 20 maps. So there'll be 10 weapons in Left 4 Dead, and we're trying to make them all be really valuable and really useful weapons that players will want to have. At the same time, we're trying to offer some flexibility, so there'll be a sniper rifle, an automatic, submachine gun, etc., so that folks can define their play style a little bit within that.
One of the points on those games usually is the different campaigns and different modes that are influenced also for the scenarios. What kind of campaigns are we having, and is it possible to change, edit, or add new maps and scenarios?
So the game will ship with 4 sort of sprawling campaigns, each one made up of 5 very large maps. You play through them one at a time, and then you get to a safe room, and it's sort of like a checkpoint where the next map will fire up. At that point, you'll get some statistics and things like that, and sort of tell you how you're doing. And post-launch, like all of our multiplayer games, Team Fortress and Counter-Strike and whatnot, we'll support it with new content and updates and what have you. Well, part of those updates will be to the software development kit for the Source engine, so that folks can create new scenarios for Left 4 Dead, that they can take the AI director and perhaps make some sort of new mod based on that technology. And obviously adding support for Gary's mod so people can sort of do the wacky things they do in Gary's mod with the assets.
One of the aspects of Valve's games is the ability of people to invest on its own games, its own maps, scenarios. What have been the reactions on testing this game with the public?
This game, more than any other, we've seen this elevated surprise reaction from people after they play the game. you know, folks hear about it or they read about it, and we meet them and they say, wow, you know, new game sounds pretty cool, and then they sit down and they play it for half an hour, and you know, they're sweating and they have this sort of happy, you know, look on their face, you know, and they're like, wow, it's so much cooler than I thought it was going to be. That's almost universally the response that we get from folks.